What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Skyview Aerial Productions, and I hope you guys liked that intro. I thought it was pretty cool, and it leads in today's video, because today I'm going to be telling you how to get the best B-roll out of your DSLR.
Welcome back to Skyview Aerial Productions.
After that intro, it was my brother's birthday, so I filmed the making of the cupcakes and the cake, and then I showed him eating the cake, opening the presents, and it's just telling a story. Now, I used the Canon EOS 77D to film it with the 18-55 kit lens, so you can make something look pretty good with just the kit lens. That's what I did, and I think it looked pretty good, but you might have thought I could have done better, and let me know what I could have done better down below. I also did use some sound effects, as you could see. Those are not straight out of the camera. I just used the camera for the footage. Goops, you're not really helping. See this? That's what I have to live with. I gotta film, okay? Okay, so now that I think I got Magoo out of the way, well, he's still right here, but I think I got him to be quiet. Let's get into some of the tips that you need to do. First thing, what I'd recommend is filming as wide as you can with stabilizers turned on. This lets you get the most stable footage. And the reason I say the most wide is because when the camera's at its widest, you can't see the shakes as much as you could see if it's zoomed in. Hey, Magoo, just stop breathing, bud. So I have an 18-55, so I film at an 18 with the F at like around 4, because that's as low as it can go. But if you have the 10-18, 10 might be a little too wide, so you can go to like 15, 16, wherever you feel comfortable. That it doesn't really matter. But that's what I would do, because that helps you get the most stable footage. Now, I have a stabilizer turned on. Sometimes that warps it a little bit, but for the most part, it does its job, and then I can just edit it out in post, put a stabilizer on it, crop in a little bit, do whatever I need to do to get the shot that I want. My next tip is to shoot in a super high frame rate. Now, don't go below 1080p to get 120 frames, but I would shoot 1080p 60 frames per second, because that's gonna give you the most crisp image, and you can put it into slow motion in post, which will also help with smoother shots. Now, I don't always slow it down to 50 or 25%, but sometimes what I do, I go in my editor and slow it down to 75%. Now, this sometimes lets me get like a nice smooth shot, and it looks pretty silky watching it back. The reason why I don't go always down to 50 is because sometimes you can tell it's in slow motion, where if it's in 75 to 80%, you can't really tell it's in slow motion, but it still gives it a nice cinematic look. My next tip for you is to shoot manual focus. Now, the reason I say this is because you have more control on what you want to be in focus. As you could tell in some of the images, you could see the background was in focus, but the main subject that I wanted was not, especially in the kitchen shots, and that really bugs me. I purposely left those in there for an example. They aren't that bad, but you can still definitely notice them, and it bugs me. So shoot in manual focus, and you won't have that problem. You can adjust it to focus on the background or the foreground, and that makes everything look a bunch better, and it's not distracting to the viewer to look at. Guys, I'm sorry, I have a cold right now. My throat sounds weird, but I just really want to make this video because I have a lot of ideas up in my head right now. I got the footage, and it's just the perfect lighting, as you can tell. Now, if you shoot in manual focus, it will also help you on your zoom, because when you zoom in, sometimes the autofocus lags, but if you're good at focusing, you can get rid of that, and you can slowly zoom in, and that really makes a cinematic look. Now, if you're moving in or out of the subject, it also can sometimes have it go blurry, which sometimes is a good look, sometimes you want it, but then again, sometimes you don't, and you can always control that on manual focus, or on automatic, it's a lot harder to control. And now my next tip for you is to use a neck strap when you film. What I use when I use a neck strap is I just use the Canon one and I put it right around my neck and I pull on the camera so that it gets really stable, and it kind of wears at your neck, but it does get a lot more stable footage and everything looks a little more natural. This is so that the camera is real nice and taut and the weight is significant on there, so all the motions look a little more jello-y, and that is a cinematic look because it's not all shaky when the stabilizer is off. This also helps if you turn the lens stabilizer on, because sometimes there can be a little jerky movements, and when the stabilizer and the lens is turned off, that gets rid of those. But overall, this is a really, really good thing to do because it helps you a ton in post to get rid of the jiggles and all the stuff you don't like, because it is already much smoother. Like I said, it does wear at your neck, so you might need to take breaks, but this is good for the panning motion up and down, kind of like that real like, so I would recommend using this. I use it all the time. It is a really good replacement for a gimbal. It does not do everything a gimbal and Steadicam do, but it's good for getting B-roll. It kind of does what a gimbal and Steadicam would do for B-roll. Here's the camera strap that I recommend using, just the Canon one. You can put it around your neck like this, put the camera on this end and just pull, and it makes a nice slow panning motion. Now my last tip has to tie in with the stabilization. This is put as much weight as you can on your camera. I have a microphone, I have a tripod, I have a neck strap on there, I have everything I can possibly think of to make my camera heavier. The reason you want this is because it makes everything look more fluid. When it's really light, you see a lot more shakes, but when it's really heavy, the shakes are minimized and it's more of like a panning motion. But when there isn't weight, it's shaky. And panning is a lot easier to get rid of in post than shakiness is. Because shaking, it doesn't smooth out well, but panning does. And this is important in post, so your stabilization works well. I have one final tip for you, and I know I'm going past 5, but who cares? This is, if you're going to zoom in, try to use an actual zoom lens, like a 55 to 100, instead of going to 55 on the 18 to 55. This is for the aperture. So on a 55 to 250, you can still use an f4 at 55. Or on an 18 to 55 with the 4 aperture, when you go to 55 millimeters, you can do a 5.6 aperture, but you can't do a 4. That helps because it creates more depth of field and it helps keep your ISO down. And my last tip, it's pretty general. It's to use as much stabilization as you can. This makes it easier to edit and it's more enjoyable for the viewer to watch. I have my lens stabilization turned on. I have my editing stabilization turned on in post. I have my in-body stabilization turned on, and then I use a neck strap. That's like my personal stabilization. And that all helps me get super smooth shots. Thank you guys for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. I apologize again for my voice. I'm just going through a cold. It's almost gone, so hopefully the next video I won't have this annoying voice. And if you want to see my settings that I use, if you can get this video to 20 likes, I will do another video on my settings for my EOS 77D. Comment down below your settings so I have an idea of what you guys want, because I have some settings, but yours might be completely different. And as always, I will see you next time here at Skyview Aerial Productions.